Mmamoloko Kubayi. She doesn't need any introduction. Of the Office of the Disclosure, Dr. Chifiwa Mpingalele. And then we also are joined here by the chairperson of the NHFC, Mr. Dr. Mr. I'm so sorry to do that to you. So we are also joined by the chairperson of the NHFC, Mr. Litando Vutula. And we also have DDGs in our midst from respective units who are responsible for in fact, the one element that they're responsible, I have the DDG of Corporate, which is the acting DDG of Corporate Service. It's Ms. Matukwe. 2C, we have the DDG, Strategy, Research and Policy, Dr. Nanamhlongo, and Entities Oversight and IGR, Dr. DDG, Ms. Cindy Siwengwa. She's not here yet. She has been informing us that she will be present, so she is on her way. Thank you so much. I'm not going to waste any more time. After the briefing, Minister is going to do the presentation, following which we are going to open the platform for questions. You can ask your questions via also the social media number that has been provided to you, the WhatsApp line. So colleagues would have that already. And then we'll then take it from there. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask the Minister to come through and do the presentation. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I don't think it is on this. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take this opportunity to greet the Deputy Chair of the Office of Disclosure, which is one of the boards that are working on behalf of the department, work in line with the banks to be able to receive disclosures on home loans that have been granted to South Africans. Greet the National Housing Finance Corporation Chairperson, Mr. Vutula. You'd know in terms of our interventions in terms of the gap market, be one of the people that assist me today in the media briefing, and as well the Director General of the Department of Human Settlements, Dr. Muyemi, who is with me together with the DDGs in the department and the advisors to the Minister. We decided to do it in a presentation form to show you what we are concerned about, what we are doing. Maybe just to explain, sometimes South Africans know us only about dealing with informal settlements and also about the RDPs, the BNGs. We also have a mandate as the Department of Human Settlements to be able to deal with looking at adequate housing for South Africans. So the Constitution makes it a mandatory for us to ensure that all the work that we do, both in terms of legislation and policy, creates a conducive environment for every South African to have access to adequate housing. The gap market in our country is experiencing serious difficulties in terms of accessing houses. This will also be not only your middle class, but also your working class, lower level employees in the country. The factors that drive affordability of housing include high interest rate, resulting in high cost of living, limited access to financing, higher property prices, higher level of indebtedness, and limited supply of affordable houses. And the interest here, you'd remember when the President opened Parliament as the beginning of, as the 7th administration started, he placed one of the priorities in terms of affordable housing, therefore mandating us as the department to pay attention and drive this area aggressively. In this briefing, we'll present our analysis of the information submitted to the Office of the Disclosure by the financial institutions and what it shows about the affordability of housing for the gap market. We will also highlight the work that we are doing in terms of collaboration between various stakeholders as part of the interventions. Just to explain, because many people would not be it in 2000, and the Act intends to compel financial institutions to disclose information about the lending activity for a home loan. Banks currently needs to be able to disclose to us who they've given the bonds to and the categories and the amounts, which is within the Department of Human Settlement. The information submitted to the Office of Disclosure is mortgages, pension-based lending, unsecured lending for home loans, home loans and use purpose only. In the past, it had only been possible to ascertain the number of home loans granted by financial institutions, but not those home loans applications which have been declined and the reasons why. This trend highlights the performance of financial institutions and help us to establish the home loan lending pattern and practices of financial institutions within the reporting period, but also to understand in terms of South Africans, how many remain without access to opportunities of housing. When you look at the slide here, it shows you that between 2018 and 2022, around 6 million mortgages and home loan applications were received by the banks and processed. Out of this 6 million, total of that have been approved, actually that have been received, 2 million comes from what we call previously advantaged persons, with just over a million approvals. Applications from historically disadvantaged persons during this period was 4 million applications. Out of home loans application has also remained high, averaging around 68%. These are people who are trying to get a house. They apply, they are rejected in South Africa. So they are earning a salary, they are willing to have a house, they are willing to have a bond, they are willing to pay for it, but it's not easy for them to get it. And that's the message today and what we are trying to communicate. However, we went and applied. So there will be those people who go online, use online apps, put an application and then it rejects, they never go. Or they test their affordability in terms of affordability on app. And then when it tells them that you don't afford, then they just don't apply anymore. There are those who walk into a branch, ask for information to some looking for a house, and therefore they tell them how much do you earn, they show their pay slip. And once they show their pay slip, they are told, no, you can't have a home loan, they don't apply. So we believe that there's more in terms of South African beyond the 3 million that are trying to have access to a house and they are not able to get it. And then other reasons that, and when we interact through the Office of Disclosure with financial institutions as they disclose, why are people being declined? What we are seeing. So mortgage approvals for lower, medium income bands. This is between 0, but many of them who are actually 3.5. So remember, in terms of the BNG, you apply below 3,500, you'll qualify. If you are earning above, then you need to go and apply for a home loan. Now, when you look at the graph, the Office of Disclosure Analysis for the past 5 years shows a concerning trend of affordability of housing for the gap. The decline in approvals in the gap market is quite significant. So when you look in terms of being able to have a, say, shelter above their head, which is secured, which is what is decent. This indicates the access to mortgage financing for the gap market is becoming increasingly difficult in the country. Now, when you look at the next slide, let me see the graph there. Now, this one's HDP, historically disadvantaged persons. The total number of applications over 5 years are about 4 million, valued at 2 trillion rand. The number has been on an increase over the years, although it slowed down in 2020 because of COVID. So the trend there, you'll see, it does speak to what we see in terms of our middle class in the country, that you'd have seen number of people increasing. But despite the increase there, you still see quite a number of previously disadvantaged individuals being not able to access a house. Now, when we look at the slide, okay, let me go back, I just moved quickly. When you look at the slide, the approval versus the declining applications. So when you look at that slide, the red becomes declining, the approvals becomes the blue one that you see there. Now, just in 2022, 41 billion, and also the approvals there sitting, the total number of approved application over 5 years is 49% of the total value at 1 trillion. Compared decline, which is valued at 636 billion. So approximately half of the applications are declined, which is an indication the number of people who can access housing is still higher. So these are people who do not qualify for housing. That's why you'd find them in informal settlements. you find them in delivery, they have in their hands, but they are not able to twice higher with black people or previously disadvantaged colored and Indian communities. However, the approval rate advantage individual that sometimes in terms of when they want to get, because we are saying we are dealing with triple challenges in the country, that of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. So when we look at this rate and what we are seeing here, it perpetuates and continues. So that's 2021 and 2022. So the trends that we are seeing and we are monitoring in terms of a 5-year period. Now, we're comparing again, being in the month of women, still in August, looking at whether we do have access to shelter for women and are they getting the application. Here we can safely say a higher number of applicants, the trend that you see in terms of men versus women. So this one we can safely say it's also the trend when we look at in terms of our RDP. So you'll find that majority of the people that continue to benefit will be women and single parent households. So that's the trend that we see in terms of the areas of work and ensuring that we can continue to account are having access to properties. And the thing slows when I move. Now, what we want to see, while we have talked about what we are seeing here, so part of the issue is to be able to say what we want to achieve and what the Act promulgates for us is the Office of Disclosure being able to assist us in actually transforming our economy, but also in terms of property ownership, because it's one of the critical areas in terms of economic development and economic growth, to ensure that previously disadvantaged individuals are able to have access to properties, but also have property ownership. So, and also one of the areas should be able to assist us to be able to ensure that we transform spatial development in our country, but also ensure that we have integrated human settlements. Currently, the information that is here, and I need to say that what we believe and what we are seeing here, we still believe that it's an inaccurate picture, or it's still missing. We do think that we have a sense of belief, or we believe that the situation is even worse than what we are seeing, because currently the banks have to disclose voluntarily. And one of the issues that we are looking at with a review of the parties or allegations so that we can achieve our objective. So that's what we want, able to intervene in the market, to be able to address the issue of affordable housing. Yes, there are people who believe that we must allow them a failure that needs to be intervened. And we do believe that as government, based on the laws and the constitution, we have an obligation to intervene. And that's why we are calling for the review of the legislation and policies. That will make it's nothing in terms of their revenue. They don't feel the pinch, they don't feel the impact. So one of the issues that we want to do is to increase the penalties. Now, what is it that we are doing as South Africans? So while we are dealing as government, while we are dealing with the private sector interventions, and what we want to see there